Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your daily astrology horoscope for this hump day, Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. Appreciate you all joining me in this video. Trusting you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Let's go ahead and hop into today's video, see what we got going on today. Well, we are going to have that moon finish up in Cancer today. It's going to make trines over to Neptune, as well as trining over to the sun before it makes its ingress into Leo. Now, this is significant because this moon will not oppose Pluto in Capricorn. We are done with that transit for the rest of our lives. Now we're going to be getting the moon opposing Pluto when it goes into Leo. So we'll see that happen really earlier on in the day. So we're talking between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time that we're going to see that moon ingress into Leo and immediately oppose that Pluto. So now we get ready to experience this aspect. So the moon, of course, likes to be in Cancer, so now it gets a little bit of a reprieve. It doesn't have to deal with Pluto as much. It'll be dealing with the quincunxing energy, but it can deal with that a little bit better now than the opposition. Now, the moon in Leo is going to be an interesting story because remember, this is the house of the other luminary, the sun. And that's the thing about Cancer and Leo that makes them unique is that it's the house of the luminaries, and these sun never retrogrades. The moon never retrogrades. It's always moving forward. So now that the moon is going to be going to Leo, where we were getting at it from the angle of Cancer, where as far as like we were wanting to move things forward and feel better emotionally about things and feeling more comfortable about things, but it was hard to move forward because Pluto was always providing a bit of that energy of like, wait a minute, think about this, look at this. It always provided a bit of an obstacle. Now we're going to get that when the moon goes into Leo, where we're going to be wanting to feel more creative, feeling more passionate, feeling more of the love for life, the love for the people. This is also going to be dealing with just matters of the heart, matters of romance. Now we're going to be wanting to move those things forward and feeling the creativity and feeling the passion for life. But now we're always going to be coming up against this Pluto energy. This is going to affect, I would say, definitely the boomers quite a bit because these are the people that have Pluto and Leo. They are the boomers, right? So it's going to be affecting them a lot. So now they're dealing with the Pluto opposition. And generally, of course, when Pluto opposes your Pluto, it's generally when most of the people of that generation get taken out. Not all, but most of them will be moving on to the next stage in their evolution and moving on from this earthly plane of existence. That's just how life goes. So this moon is going to come into Leo, and of course, we're going to want to feel passionate. We're going to want to feel creative, feeling like we can move things forward, wanting to invoke a little bit more of that Leo extroverted energy. But it's going to be a little bit hard because now Pluto's in Aquarius, and we got to take those things into consideration. But this Pluto in Aquarius, like I said, it's going to come in subtly, but then it's going to come in with some bangs here and there, right? And of course, this moon, we are going to see it join up with Mars today here at 4 degrees. So that's just going to amplify the energy even more. Why? Because Mars is slowing down. Mars is not moving the fastest it can. So yes, it's in a fire sign. So yes, it's happy about that. But it can't hit the gas pedal full throttle. Mars wants to hit the gas pedal and doesn't want to hit the brakes at all. Doesn't want to hit the brakes at all. But Mars is hitting the brakes right now. It's moving slower. So when this moon comes on top of this Mars, we're going to feel that slowdown. We're going to feel the braking here. And it's going to cause some frustration because we're having to kind of go back to the drawing board as far as how do we act when it comes to our creativity? Where is our will? Can we will things into existence? It's something that my dad has been talking about a lot lately, how the will is the greatest gift that God has given man. And so many people don't really use their will, or maybe they just use it in spurts and stuff. But Mars and Leo most certainly definitely is about the will, and especially when it comes from that more creative heart space, right? Especially if you think about it, even too, it's like Cancer rules the chest region, right? So, and Leo rules kind of like, just below the chest region, but that's generally where Cancer rules. So, the fact that Mars is going to be going into Leo and then retrograding back into Cancer, we do have a lot of things that we have to cover here. now that this Mars in Cancer is going to be opposing where Pluto has been for the last 15 years, right? So we're going to be reconfiguring and going over how are we going to move forward and act in this new reality now that Pluto has come into Aquarius, now that it's come into a new sign. How are we going to act accordingly? Because now we have to deal with all of the major transits that are going to be happening to this Pluto in Aquarius, right? The first of which will, of course, as far as planets go, will be Jupiter. When Jupiter eventually gets to Leo and opposes Pluto, we're now going to start to see that. Another thing that's interesting about this Pluto transit is the fact that Saturn will not conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. It will not conjunct Pluto in Aquarius like it did in Capricorn. So that's another thing that we have to take into consideration. By the time that Pluto is finishing up in Aquarius, Saturn's going to be like in Sag, I want to say. It's like Sag, almost like Capricorn, but it's not going to quite get to the conjunction, right? So the major things that we will see with Pluto and Aquarius are going to be primarily the squares. Like I said, when Saturn squares Pluto, when Saturn goes into Taurus, right? So we will see that energy. We won't see Uranus do it. We'll see the Uranus and Gemini trine over to this Pluto, right? We'll see the Neptune sextile, right? And, and of course we'll see, like I said, the Jupiter, we'll see that opposition, and we will see the Jupiter conjunction to Pluto as well. So, but as far as like the major conjunctions, the main one that we're going to see as far as like major like planetary wise, besides the personal planets like Venus, Mercury, Mars, is Jupiter. So that's what we're going to see. So just a little nugget just to kind of take that into consideration, just to kind of have that ponder on that, just to have that in your consciousness, just so you know what's coming in the future, because Aquarius is all about the future, right? So these are the things that are coming, right? So we can kind of feel a bit of this slowdown more today with this moon coming on top of this Mars. Like I said, it is moving a lot slower. Hold on, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to show the sheets, right? That's what I meant to show. So you can see that Mars is in fact slowing down. It's moving very slow. It's only moving at 11 minutes a day, right? We have Mercury that's slowing down as well. It's moving at 40 minutes a day. Mercury is going to be coming retrograde here soon. So these are just some things to take into consideration, right? So you have Mars at +5, but you have the moon at -5. So they pretty much cancel each other out. So, and that's the interesting point about this, is the fact that they cancel each other out. So how do you make it through a moment like this where these energies cancel each other out? Look to some of the other planets, but also realize, the power of your will. Look at where the sun is. It's at +5 here, being here on the last degree of Scorpio at 29 degrees. This is, of course, a very edgy degree, right? This is a major breakthrough point, and this is, of course, right before we go into Sagittarius. So this is taking the culmination of all of the lessons that we've learned during Scorpio season on how to find our emotional resolve, how to find our emotional fortitude, how to, how to understand ourselves a little bit more psychologically, right? How to learn how to deal with the deeper, the darker, the tougher aspects of this reality, and how to deal with the transformation, how to deal with death, how to deal with these things. We come to this culmination point, and the sun is the strongest planet, at least according to this. Now, I would say that Neptune probably is the strongest planet, but it's not going to be shown here because Neptune is in its home sign, and it's the only planet in its home sign, Uranus is in fallen Taurus, right? Saturn, it's not the best in Pisces, right? Pluto's in Aquarius, right? Which I feel like Pluto would probably rather be over there in Leo, right? Venus is okay in Capricorn, so Venus feels good. It's at +3, right? Mercury's in Sag, doesn't want to be there, right? So that's the thing about this. And yeah, Mars is in a fire sign, sure, but it's slowing down. And that's the thing that we have to take into consideration, and it's moving very slow. Mars would much rather move a lot faster than it is right now. So those are the things we got to take into consideration too. So when things are kind of like this, Jupiter at +0, Mercury at +0, there's a lot of neutral kind of energy to this, because I would say that the moon and Mars cancel each other out. So with that, you have to look to the sun. You have to look to Venus. And right, so Venus and Capricorn, this does have to do with how can we receive and embrace the more Capricornian? How can we embrace more responsibilities, and embracing those responsibilities by, embracing those responsibilities, what is going to come as a result of doing so? You know, you may take on more stuff, but that can also lead to a promotion at work or more money or what have you. And yes, Pluto is done with all this energy, right? And yes, the popularity and the notoriety that Capricornian energy can sometimes seek, even though a lot of that's kind of Leo, but Capricorn also is kind of, there's an element of that because it is like how people see you in the world, right? It's the midheaven, right? So yes, Venus wants to be loved, wants to be adorned, and everything like that. Now, the way that's going to happen, now that Pluto is done with that, it's going to hit a little bit differently. It's not going to carry with it the same courtesy and weight, but so long as you are in integrity, you can manifest some pretty awesome shit. I'm just not even gonna lie here, right? So we have to look to Venus, but the way to get there is by accepting more responsibility, or accepting responsibility in general. Taking responsibility for the way that things are, for how your life is, Even if you feel like it may not necessarily be your fault, accepting responsibility is like where it simply makes sense to. But trying to run away from those trying to run away from the responsibility, trying to get away from it and stuff, it's not really going to be conducive, right, for success. Venus is coming into a sextile with Saturn, of course, which is being disposited by Saturn, which has just recently come forward, but Saturn is still moving very slow, not even a minute a day. So by the time that Venus sextiles it, it's going to be just barely moving forward, which is nice because this can be a nice seed for a dream or something that you can really build here with Saturn and Pisces. This can be an incredible seed that you can plant during this time, during this week. I think this is actually a pretty awesome week to plant some awesome seeds, but just know that this thing isn't going to grow overnight. So we have to dig deep. We have to find our resolve. We have to, Scorpio, you really figure out how about it you really are when Scorpio season rolls around, right? Because generally during this time, the veil is thinner, right? And, it's easier to pick up on each other's energies, and everyone feels like a Scorpio. And that's why everyone gets so emotional during this time, is because they become a magnet for all of the energy. That's what Scorpios are. It's fixed water. So think of it as like a super magnet for emotions, and then having to transmute them. And some of your emotions aren't even yours. Scorpios feel this 24/7, whether it's sun, moon, or rising. I would say especially the sun and moon, where it's just like constantly you are like a sponge for emotions and stuff like that. That's why Scorpio also rules boundaries. So the other thing that the sun at the end of Scorpio is teaching us is like, where are your boundaries? Do you have boundaries? Have you set up boundaries? And have you taken responsibility for your boundaries? Or, are you saying that other people have to be like, I think it's good to let people know and to communicate, obviously. But if you're putting the responsibility of your boundaries on other people, and them having to tiptoe around you so as to not offend you or to set you off or anything like that, then you have to go within and look a little bit deeper to figure out what's really going on, right? You can't just walk around with bubble wrap on. You can't just walk around, and that's what's happening right now. A lot of people just wants to go through life with bubble wrap wrapped around them, and it's just simply not how it works. Scorpio is where you go to find your emotional strength and your emotional resolve. And everyone just got a dose of that. What it's like to be a Scorpio. Everyone got a dose of that over the last 30 days. What it's like to be a Scorpio 24/7. Constantly having to work on their emotional fortitude. That's why everyone thinks that we're so intense and so crazy. And why we think there's a deeper reason to everything. Right? Because we're trying to get to the bottom of shit, right? That's what Scorpio does. It's an investigator. It's trying to get to the bottom of stuff. So if you haven't been able to get to the bottom of some things in your life, and if you're still just chilling on the surface and you're not willing to dive deep to see how just deep this iceberg goes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a conspiratorial sense. I'm talking about you and who you are and why you do the things that you do and what your will is. You gotta remember Mars still does rule Scorpio traditionally. What your will is, if you have not been able to find the courage and the bravery to be able to dive deep and to figure out what makes you tick, then you did not win this Scorpio season. Especially with Pluto finishing up in Aquarius, the ruler of Scorpio. So we literally only get the last couple days of Scorpio with Pluto in a new sign, being in Aquarius. Because the last time that Pluto came over here in this spot, Scorpio wasn't here. Or the sun wasn't here. So those are things that we have to take into consideration. So let me just move this back so but that's the major thing with today. Because I mean we can go back actually if we want to go back to the last time that the sun was in Scorpio. We can see that the last year when the sun came into Scorpio, it was being disposited by a Pluto that was in Capricorn. Right? So it didn't even make it. It wouldn't come into Pluto wouldn't come into Aquarius until later that year. Earlier this year, right? And that's the second go around too. So you got to go back even further back into 2023 too. So when it retrograded the first time, where was the sun? Gemini. So this is the first time that we are going to have a sun in Scorpio, right? With Pluto and Aquarius in all of our lives. And we only get a couple days of it. We only get a little bit of a taste of it, right? So just something to take into consideration as well. Something else that I learned, which is wild, and I didn't even know this, but as far as like the sun and Pluto, even the bigger part of this is the Antesia, which essentially means that there's the same amount of daylight on two particular days, and then you look at what those degrees are, and those are the Antesia of each other. So 29 degrees of Scorpio and 0 degrees of Aquarius are actually the Antesia, because you get the same amount of day on either side of it, which I didn't even realize that was I didn't know that, honestly. I didn't know that until today. I just learned it today. So it's pretty freaking cool. I don't even know if I can show it on here exactly, but just like if I just type it, let's see, Antesia. How do I even spell Antesia? Jeez. See, we're gonna learn together, right? Reflections around the solstice and equinox points. Antesia are reflections around the solstice and equinox points. The word Shia comes from Greek and it means shadow. Points in Antesia mirror one another across the solstitial. Oh, I can't say that. Across the solstitial axis, which means they share the same amount of daylight or power. With Antesia, the solstice is in the center of the midpoint. Exactly. So that's the really cool thing about this, as far as like the Antesia stuff. So signs in Antesia are gonna be like Scorpio and Aquarius. So you have to. I need to find like the if I can find like an actual thing and show you guys. I'm sure I can find it eventually in this astrology program. I'm sure it's in here. But I just think that that's interesting that they are the same amount of day or power essentially. And my wife is calling me. That's the noise that you guys hear in the background, is my phone going off. In any event, I think that today's going to be a powerful day. You're going to kind of start to feel the slowdown with that moon being on Mars. And I know that everyone wants to hit the pedal to the metal. And in some ways, we kind of can. But I think this is really more about planting the seeds for the future. Because, like I said, Saturn is coming direct now, or it is direct now, but it's still moving a little bit slower. We still have to do it this Mars retrograde. We still have a Mercury retrograde as well. We still even have a Venus retrograde coming up. And Jupiter is going to be retrograde throughout this whole holiday season. So it's not moving forward as fast as we want to, but it is still moving forward. Card of the day I have is the World card in reverse. You know, she's going to keep calling me, so... So we got the World card in reverse. This can definitely speak to, the World card does speak to cycles ending, but with it being in the world, with it being in reverse, I feel like some people feel like the world has been turned upside down and that they're feeling stuck. Well, that's all a perception. The feeling of being stuck and that there's not any type of progression or the page is not turning, that is all a perception within your own mind. And the fact of the matter is that things are turning, just probably not in the way that you want it to go exactly. Especially if you want to go back to the way something was before, you cannot turn the page back to a previous chapter. It's like people are trying to go from chapter 8 to chapter 4. But that's not going to happen. You turn the page into chapter 9, it's like, oh no, a new chapter, new characters, new setting. That's the game right here. And this World card in reverse, the only way that you're going to really feel like it's reversed, like I said, is if you are so stuck on going back to a previous chapter. But the fact of the matter is that things are moving forward. You just have to look at things in a different way. But that's going to do it for your daily astrology horoscope. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey today. If you did enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, I haven't shouted out my readings, but I do readings. So if you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. But y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful day. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.